Yep, it's on. Okay. Okay, so you already finished this, Leah, right? I think she already did everything. Yep, so this patient's done with phase 1. The boarding process is going to start 3 hours after the admit orders are written. So if you're leaving your patient in phase 2 for those 3 hours, you would just continue to do what you normally would in phase 2. Hopefully your anesthesia orders and everything that you have will cover everything you need to do.
So we do the phase 1 for 1 hour basically, and then phase 2 would be the 2
Right.
hours.
But if the patient's going to remain there after those 3 hours, that's when we start this process.
So the cutoff is after 3 hours total.
Right.
Okay.
Unless you know that you're definitely not going to have a bed all night long, you might as well go ahead
Like
and
the
move
other
them over
night
to
when I had,
PCS.
when this all
Mhm.
started,
Yes.
and I made it up, and I screwed everybody up. That's awesome.
Do we have transfer orders?
Sorry, did I miss something?
Nope.
See, I put a height and weight in there. Didn't it just say need a height and weight?
Mm-hmm.
Are
Yeah, you
on?
said you did.
So this is all set up backwards. Because all
Oh, I'm
of our
sorry.
stuff
yes.
is over here and all of their
Yes.
stuff is over there.
She's a lefty.
Let me
I didn't even know you could change that.
fix that.
Well, it's fine. I just was like, I noticed stupid things. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. You probably won't do it until I log back out.
It's okay. It's not a big deal.
Are you?
Did I do something wrong?
Do you want to put in transfer orders?
Oh, yes. That's what I didn't do. I didn't put in transfer.
Oh, that's why we're here.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so the hour for phase 1,
Mhm.
phase 2, the second hour.
So
you'll
you
do
can do it up to 3
to-
hours
3 hours of total care or 3 hours in phase 2?
total,
Okay.
So do 2
which
hours. in
starts after those admit or transfer orders are written.
Oh, they better not screw around then.
I'm so sorry, guys.
No, it's okay.
Just because that's when, that last of that phase 2 is when they start needing stuff like pain medicine and,
Mhm.
you know.
So if you don't have what you need just from the anesthesia orders, I'll show you how to process single orders out of the
Oh,
transfer
God
set.
bless America, I love you.
But we don't process the whole transfer order until they get to PCS.
Okay.
They're like, what are you doing in there?
Hello? Yes. Okay. Let me check with Adam and see if he can run it. Okay, thanks.
I'm sure I could probably figure this out.
Set your butt down. We have an interview at 4:30 and you have plenty of time to sit here and chill with me. Friend,
All right.
I'm the boss.
She's got hyperactivity like me. I can't do, this makes me want to vibe zone, because I'm like, this is so.
I think you were the one that
Yes,
freaked out on me with my binder because all of my
yes,
dots were not lined up.
yes. She had my book, like half of the pages up here and half of them down
She'll
there.
be happy to know now that I don't use that format anymore.
Oh,
Now I
thank
have the
goodness.
holes at the top. just a 2-hole puncher instead of a binder. Anyways,
Yeah.
the first day she started, she was like,
Okay.
I can't do
Try
I
that.
this.
just went,
There's
Okay, thank you.
multiple
I
orders.
got somebody that was
Sorry.
just sitting outside.
Oh, because of Brooks and
And I got to
Um,
hear about the orientation stuff that she's gonna be just taking care of in the next 2 weeks. I'm like, I didn't want to say. Don't bother. I wanted to, but I
Get on
didn't say
there.
that. I was
Yes,
like, "Oh,
thank
I'm gonna
you.
Go out with, whatever she wants to go.
Okay, so if you need something in this transfer set before they get to PCS in that 3 hours, this now column over here, say they really need gabapentin for some reason.
Okay.
Of course, these are the medications that were continued in the transfer.
Sure.
But if there's anything else down here you need now, you just go ahead and process that single order.
So the 2 little checks for now, we'll just process those. 2.
Yes, yes,
And you
Um,
submit it to process those?
yes.
Okay.
Because
So-
when you click one of them, this is grayed out. You can't do the whole thing anymore. You can
Yeah.
only do that one.
And then that will
Nice.
come over to your phase 2.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. Okay, so let's say that we are ready to move them over to PCS. You can leave this tracker up if you have other patients you're still taking care of. But we're going to come back to our main menu and go to the PCS status board. Now, this screen is important because it's for billing. In PCS, we do have certain interventions that drop charges.
Oh,
It's not a package deal like you guys are used to, or, based on time. It's based on what we do for the patient. So you do have to pick surgical services here,
okay.
okay? I'll just ask you when you log in. After that, you don't have to say it again.
Are you recording?
Yes. So, let's go over to lists. Normally, you wouldn't see any patients on here, but I've been playing with a lot of things, so. So you have your SIR board location.
Okay.
The rooms are gonna match up 1-to-1 with the pre-op rooms.
Okay.
So pre-op 1 will be SIR board 1.
Okay.
And that is because they thought those rooms were more like patient rooms instead of a bay.
Yeah.
So you go into that location and there's your patients. Oh, we need to register them.
So do you put them in, when you go into your,
You know what I mean? The registration and then,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, okay. Sorry,
so
what were you
when they're
asking?
in phase 2, you have to register them to go to SIR board?
Yes, so, let me back up, I'm sorry. So your transfer order is going to have get in here. It's gonna say that they want them to go to med-surg.
Okay.
We did not give the physicians access to pick the SIR boarding or the ED boarding locations.
Thank you, Jesus.
They don't, they
They don't
probably
get
don't
to
even
choose
care,
that.
right? They just need to know what level of service that patient needs to be.
Yeah.
And then from there, the house soup will say, hey, we don't have a bed, we're gonna board them. So the registration will need to know where they're going. So you would still do your nurse to reg communication order.
Straight from phase 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I don't work PACU a lot right now.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
where are we doing this now? Because we do it from phase 1, but now we're actually gonna do it from phase 2.
Okay, so now in the locations, you do have that available.
Okay.
So even though they're going to med-surg, they're gonna stay there. And the room will just be whatever pre-op room they're gonna be in.
Sure.
I think let's do 6. Okay. So now that's in, so she's registering that patient.
And I'm doing medicine. Oh, I leave. 4 times.
I tell you, it's been a rough couple weeks.
Oh, you should have boarded the first patient in pre-op
Oh,
without
I'm
this.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
It was real rough.
And that's one of the reasons we did that is because there were some safety issues, like ED boarded a patient. There was a heparin drip, but because it was in the transfer order and
couldn't
they
get to
weren't
it.
working off of those, they didn't know that that was stopped.
Mhm.
So,
Okay,
I was just glad that I was a
you're good.
thank you.
nurse,
Uh-huh.
and I
Right,
at least knew the processes of what needed to be done, whether I could document it correctly or not.
right. So,
Hmm.
yeah, there's some billing and safety issues that needed to be addressed. Okay, so now the patient is in PCS. Like you said, our status board is a little bit different. So I'm just gonna tell you a couple of columns that might be useful. The other columns you may or may not want to look at, but they're there. So the first one is the acknowledgement.
Mhm.
So that's where you'll find all of the new orders. Once we process the transfer, those will all show up in there. But then you want to make sure that's clear because anytime the physician wants new orders, that's how you'll know.
That's where ours needs to be. Our next one's-
Okay, so I'm gonna go out of there. The home meds, I mean, hopefully that'll already be updated, but it's important that that is updated so that the physician can decide whether or not to continue their home meds.
So if we confirm meds in pre-op, it
Mhm.
shows confirmed there, and
Yes.
then they don't have to reconfirm them.
Correct,
Nice.
yes.
Oh, so
They're welcome.
exactly.
But if the patient's like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about something,
Sure,
you can
you can
always
go in
go in
there.
there and change it. Then it's, it's just got their diagnosis, if they have consults, if they have tele or pulse ox. Tele is gonna be a little bit different because even though you guys have monitors, in order for the teletech to monitor them, they'll probably have to be on a
Right.
pack.
Not to bring the box.
Yeah, and so they're working on making sure that the Wi-Fi connection can transmit and all of that good stuff. Mhm. Which I'm guessing it should be if they can do it for short stay. Anyway.
Sure.
There's their diet, if they have BGs. And then this next med column is going to show you what medications are coming up due. And it will also tell you if you have pain reassessments due.
Cool.
So that's pretty much the
So
ones
you
you'll need
can
to
look-
look at.
Well, you can look in through your whole,
Mhm.
like everything you need to do on just your tracker.
Right.
column.
Yep.
Is
So
there
when
a
you
way
have
to
6
assign
patients, there is. Some departments use it, some don't. It's a little convoluted, so our board secretaries do it because
Oh.
it's kind of time consuming, but yeah, everything's there. Like when you have 6 patients, it's nice to be able to look quickly and see what's going on.
Mhm.
Now we're going to open the chart. Go to transfer. We do want to make sure the patient is in this location. You can see up here that it does say that they're in admission. That's what that means there. And then this is their location in their bed. I guess you
So when they're
put 'em in a
boarded, you-
different
you
bed
guys
than I
board 'em in pre-op.
picked, but
Oh, that was
Yeah,
the
because
error
they
message
have
I got.
a door
Yeah.
and
I
they don't
should've
really
asked.
have a patient care bathroom on that side, on Packy side.
Right, but I mean, in pre-op. Those two, right?
I'll have to join for that,
Mhm.
because it's more set up like a patient room with a call light and a TV and
Mhm.
sink and, I mean, everything's.
So we'll just start doing them over there.
What do we do for the next patients the next day?
Well, if we're boarding patients in pre-op, we better be canceling surgery.
Well, I mean,
Is there a chance that you're gonna have a, well, I guess that wouldn't be the case, that you'd have a patient over in PACU and in pre-op?
Yeah.
So how are you gonna do that?
You hold all your patients in PACU until you're done.
And
and
bring them
then-
all together?
yeah, that's what we talked about. Even though that was the intent is to put them in those pre-op rooms, you may not be able to,
Yeah, it may be delayed.
but you'll have to know that maybe lab or radiology might come looking for them and
So this is gonna be
Let them know
Lynn
where they
and
are.
whoever's on call for the evening. And then on weekends, call people.
You know, and it just kind of depends. I mean, technically, in those rooms, you can actually phase 1 and phase 2 those patients in those rooms. The problem comes
don't
if
know
you
how to
have,
find-
well, if you have a complicated case that comes out that could turn bad, you have, like, I wouldn't recover a VATS in a pre-op room,
Mhm.
even if they're staying down with us.
Because you don't have all the
Because
supplies and
if,
stuff.
Right.
if you have to call a code, those rooms are not
Small.
fun to code in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We've had to do it.
Yeah, so I think
So you just
that's
have to use your
still a
nursing
work in
plan.
progress. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now we're gonna process the transfer orders. So these are all continued. Oh, I switched it, I forgot. And then, yep, everything's continued. If there were new orders, like the post-op order set, those would show up as well.
So this is probably, well, this order set is more like a patient that came from the floor and went back up,
Probably.
is what it
Yeah, yeah.
looks more like, yeah.
'Cause there's so many.
I sprung
Those
this
are all
on
continued.
Leah last
Mhm.
minute, so she's
Yeah,
doing her
that's,
best.
looks less than,
Okay, so now all of those are in the current orders and they'll go to pharmacy. So one thing different is that pharmacy does have to verify all the meds before they can get acknowledged and given.
For PCS.
Yep, and they do have up to an hour to verify. So just be aware that
Not according.
you might see a delay.
So be gentle.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
at night, I mean, usually during the day, they're pretty quick. At night, it might be a little bit delayed, but
Mhm.
sometimes if you call them and just say, hey, did you see these? I really need them. They're pretty good about it.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we're gonna come out here and we're going to acknowledge.
Oh, that's sweet. You guys just go straight to the, you can acknowledge them all at once?
No.
Oh, it's like, dang, I hate clicking all those boxes.
Yeah, no, and there's a reason for that. Because a lot of these orders will have stuff embedded inside of them, and so that's the only way we know.
Mm.
So yes, you do have to click every order. There might be a lot.
Mm.
That one should have probably been stopped. But it's okay. We'll ignore it.
We'll pretend.
There's a consult to OT, PT, here's your diet. In the comment, it says order specific diet, so that's something we need to pay attention to. Oh, look, and they're still in.
We're by
Okay. So when you get to the medications, if there was any new ones, these are all continued, but if there were any new ones, it would say in red right here that you can't acknowledge it until it's verified.
Oh, yeah.
So you could try to click them on, verify them, but it's going to tell you you can't. So
Yeah.
at this point, I'm just going to stop and acknowledge the nursing orders and then save it. And once they're all verified, I can go back into the meds. And after that, you do want this box to clear so that you'll know when new orders come in.
Okay.
Okay, so the next part is going to be to add what's called the standard of care to the work list. And that's something that we have on every patient. It includes our nursing shift assessment. So this spreadsheet here, it's going to be basically all of those interventions. This kind of tells you the purpose of it, the time frame that they should be completed in, although you're going to have your clocks on your work list that you'll want to follow. And so we tried to limit the number of things that you guys have to do on one of these patients, but Tammy did research and found that Joint Commission says that the level of care has to be the same. Right. So we tried. But like I said, if your patient's going to be there maybe 4 to 6 hours, you may not have to go ahead and do the admission assessment. But if you're getting close to 20 hours, you will probably need to go ahead and do it. So this kind of tells you the time frame and then the rationale, so you know why we're doing it.
Sure.
So this work list already has a bunch of stuff. A lot of this came from the orders. And these are also left over from you guys' problems from your care plan. So we also do have to have a care plan on every patient that stays in the hospital. But luckily for you guys, those surgical ones can count if they still apply, like pain, nausea. And so as long as we have a care plan, we're good.
Okay.
So we'll have to just review it quickly and you'll see if you need to add or delete anything, but you guys should be good on that part. So the first thing we're going to do is document this intervention that says add care items to the work list. So then you'll mark what your patient status is. So you can see here, your patient's an inpatient. That's what the IN means. If it's INO, that's observation, but hopefully you guys won't see those.
Okay.
If there's still a Reg SDC status, then it would be recover on floor. And then hopefully you guys aren't going to get any IC or step down. They're going to avoid that because
Yeah.
those patients would probably be an ED because they do have that level of care to be able to care for those.
Okay.
And then the text below that, it just tells you how to go and add a care plan if you need to. That was mainly intended for ED.
Okay.
So I'm going to save that. It's asking me if I want to auto complete the intervention because it's just a one-time. So I'm going to say yes. And just like when you import your assessments, it'll bring this up. You do not have to check every one because we made it the default. All you have to do is click OK. Yeah. Now there's a bunch more stuff. Very messy. Very overwhelming, I'm sure.
A little bit.
Yeah. A lot of them are PRN. Like if you were to ambulate, that's there if you apply an ice pack. But what you're mainly going to focus on is your clocks, and those are going to be at the top.
Okay.
So before we start documenting, let's go look at the care plan. So you're going to go over here to plan of care. And you've got your problems here. So if those are still valid, you can open them up and look at them. If all these are still valid, you can keep them. But say you don't think this temperature alteration is a problem anymore, you can complete it. But if you needed to add something additional for your patient, bleeding or something else, you could always add that down here at the bottom. And then you can just add by problem instead of adding a whole nother huge care plan.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Some of these have interventions and different outcomes underneath them. Again, you can customize these, and that's what the Joint Commission is always looking for is individualization of a care plan. So you can review that. And all of the interventions and outcomes are shared on the work list. So it's very messy to look at that care plan, but you can work off of here instead.
Okay.
We do document our outcomes once a shift. And the easy way to do that is just uncheck interventions. And then you can document your outcomes. And you just mark if it's met, partially met, any comments you want to make. And then if it is met and complete, it will automatically complete that off of the care plan.
Oh, nice.
So it won't show up anymore. Okay, so let's see. We went over standard of care. Okay, so we're just going to look at some of the interventions that you're going to be documenting. Like I said, try to follow your clocks. The admission assessment and the medical, surgical, social history are the ones that have to be completed in 24 hours. So you don't necessarily have to do those unless the patient's going to be there a long time. If you have time, you can though, like this one here is basically going to be a review. If you guys have already asked all of that, then all you have to do is click review. So the admit checklist is meant to be something for our CNAs to like put in their height and weight, orient them to the room, make sure to put on the tele and SCDs if they're ordered. So
Oh, I see.
That's
like
just
our
a,
pre-op checklist then.
Mhm. and then we do hourly rounding, so. Where is it? Oh, here we go. So during the day, it's every 1 hour. At night, it's Q2. So we share that between the nurses and the CNAs. I know it's just, probably you guys.
Yeah. It will be wonderful.
But this is meant to be helpful, more helpful, because you can document everything in one place that you're doing for the patient while you're in the room.
Mhm.
So that means you don't necessarily also have to write a note.
Right.
So you can mark, patients awake, alive, breathing, safety in place, any positioning, pain, and then intake and output. If you have a catheter or a drain, though, you're going to have to document it in the other intervention.
Yeah.
And then all of your ADLs, so you can just quickly mark anything that you provided for them, any comments you need to make, level of assistance. SCDs, we do want to mark if they are on the patient because that is something that gets tracked for reporting. If it's not ordered, you can just mark not ordered. And then if you need to throw in an O2 sat or evaluate their IV dressing. So you can just do all that in one place.
So for embolism prevention, does it have chemical as an option?
No, this is only physical. So
Okay.
chemical, they will be able to see that
On their mark.
it's ordered on the MAR. This is just physical. So if they have a medication ordered, but not the pumps, then you can just mark not
Oh,
ordered. Mhm. So every time you come in here, you don't have to mark every field, just mark what you're actually doing. That's what it's intended for. If you do need to add something additional, you can add this note at the bottom. I don't know if I did that too quick. So you can add a note to any intervention. And then you could just mark like dressing.
And so that will stay
Intact.
attached to that specific time and intervention.
Exactly. Okay, and you can see that here at the top.
Oh, nice. That's good to know because when we are searching for information, we might need to
Yeah.
check in that
Yeah.
box, huh?
Yeah, if you can't
Okay.
find a place to document something, you can always attach that.
Yeah.
Or say
I
something
like
in
how it's
addition.
attached though.
Mhm. Because when you go to view it, you can see it from the notes or from the interventions.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay.
Very simple.
I think our nursing shift assessment is pretty similar to what you guys have. We chart by exception. It is a lot longer, but it is intended to allow you to open up any field that you might need to say something about. But if it's within normal limits, then all you have to do is hit yes for each section.
Okay.
So maybe the only thing they've got is their incision. So maybe that's all you're going to document on here.
Wow.
And we do,
Ooh, those are even better.
right? We do share some of the same questions with you guys. So if you hit recall, you may be able to pull in what you guys have already documented in the other areas.
Is that the only way you can see our documentation is if you recall it?
No, not
Okay.
necessarily. Yeah.
Something like that would suck
No, yeah, it's just not while you're in
in the
our
actual
documentation, right? Oh, I'm missing something. There we go. Let's see, what else do we need to look at? Sorry, we did all this on Friday and now I'm like, what did we talk about?
It's okay. So now we don't have to redo any of, like the COVID screening, all those flows over to PCS, correct?
So this COVID screening is different.
Oh,
Okay. We'll look at that in a minute. So this one that you're doing is symptoms, right? So what we're doing is actually screening them to see if they want a COVID vaccination.
oh, okay.
We are not doing it on admissions, which is weird. Because that's what we do, we plan for discharge on admission, but they said, no, we're gonna do it on discharge. So if they want it, you're gonna have to plan to have some extra time to get the medication from pharmacy and to make the patient wait, 15 minutes or whatever.
Well, I'm guessing for most cases, we're not gonna have that patient that long. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, what we're planning for is worst case scenario,
Yeah.
but as you guys have seen, we are kind of there right now.
we're getting
So
there.
when we document in
Mhm.
our pre-anesthesia teach that they've had their vaccinations, does that transfer over into your guys' account so that you wouldn't have to?
Well, that's one question that I've had is that, because we were told we weren't screening for that initially, but it sounds like the ED has been putting that into their history.
And we put it in, the PAT
put it-
nurses, if they
yeah.
have the dates and the
Mhm.
information, the PAT nurses put that in, and then
Do
in pre-op,
you-
if they have a card, we
Mhm.
scan it into the chart so
Okay.
that it's in their chart
Mhm.
permanently.
So that's been a discussion as we don't really have a clear process for that right now. So are they putting it under immunization? Do you know?
Yep.
Okay,
So that's where the PAT nurses input it by hand.
okay.
And then if we just get a copy of their card, Robin just scans it in and it goes under,
It's
Um,
under lab.
I think it ends up going under lab right now.
Okay,
It's not a great place. They've never found a
Right.
great place for it, but
okay. So yes, then you could just look and see if they've already had one. And that's what we're trying to do is look and see if we do have it documented. And I think we are gonna need to start asking that sooner because we're also gonna offer boosters.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a work in progress. But I'll look at discharge real quick in a minute. It's pretty similar to what you guys do, but if you guys have any other questions on the work list? Okay. I mean, your main focus is going to be patient care, of course.
Yeah.
And then if, trying to find a place to document what you did. And if not, you can always throw in a note. Yeah, just be careful
Yeah.
not to document like labs, vital signs, things like that in there because
then you can never
then
see
you
it.
can
Yeah.
never see it.
Yeah.
One thing on the vital signs is if you are gonna capture from the monitor, wherever it is, I don't think it's on this. And you have your vital sign clock here, you don't have to double document. So
Right.
if you're gonna document in the capture, then you can just mark this as not done here.
Oh,
And you can just say,
Stacy, I
see,
included this right here.
monitor vitals.
Oh,
And so I
okay.
don't think it's flowing over if you're not seeing it.
maybe you need to, we need
Oh.
to refresh maybe.
Okay,
I don't know.
Because I,
Ours we have to refresh a lot.
okay,
um,
that's okay.
it's just something to think about, I guess.
Yeah. So anyway, now it's not due for 8 more hours. Because depending on what the physician orders that they want the vital signs done in. And of course, we do the post-op vitals frequency, and then we go to whatever they ordered.
Sure.
But if you're capturing, you don't have to do it twice.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, if you captured it somewhere else, just document not done on that clock.
Okay. But then you have to document it on every clock. Or can you shut that off?
No.
Well, we can shut ours off. We can shut our clocks off.
Shut your clocks off? Yeah.
Yes, thank goodness.
We just take the timer off of them. We just say none.
Hmm.
And then they go away. Otherwise, we have,
You can't get to anything.
yeah, for a 2-hour stay, we have like
No.
16,000.
I want to
blocks.
try.
I don't know. I mean, ours are for specific reasons.
Mhm.
And the managers do look at those, see what's missed, but I don't know.
We don't have that one.
We don't have managers.
We
mean-
don't know, and that's what I meant. I mean, we don't look at the clocks, the report.
Well, and for you guys, it's a short period of
Yeah,
time
it's
and
not
you're
like
just
the same.
doing your
Yeah.
normal process. For us, there might be, they want drains stripped Q4, they want vitals Q2, they want
Yeah.
this. I mean, so if we don't have the clocks, then we're just lost.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So.
You guys just make up your own rules.
Duh.
That's why we work.
They
where
make
we
up their
work.
own
We
clock.
just turn them off.
Well, it's about
I
time for
just
me to
shut
take
them
a
off.
smoke.
If they don't apply, I shut them off.
I'll do what I want when I want.
Because when we first started this, we were all like so excited about the clocks.
Mhm.
And then it was such a nightmare. We're like, shut them damn things off.
Yes.
Well, and we
sure.
tried to not make too many so that the ones that we had were relevant, but now it's like oh, can we put a clock on that? Can we put a clock on that? So
Mhm.
Yeah.
All these
it's a hard
clocks.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Marty.
Okay, so let's look at discharge real quick.
I have to sneak out.
Sure.
Will you
Thank you.
just send me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
the discharge plan should look pretty similar to what you guys do. Let me go ahead and save that. So you might have, you'll have your discharge meds, you'll have your diet activity instructions, whatever. So our interventions are a little bit different, and we have this referred to PCP field. I don't know if you guys have that. So basically, it's required because it's regulatory, they have to report it, but basically, if there's a PCP listed here, you just say yes. It's kind of silly.
Oh.
If
Okay.
not, you say no.
Okay.
But our interventions here, so we do IV removal, vital signs, and patient belongings. Usually like our CNA would do that, but that's what we would do before we print the packet.
Okay.
Because you have to do the belongings before you print the packet so that it will be
Print
on there
with the
for them to
packet?
sign. Yes.
Okay.
So,
So the discharge assessment, you don't have to check that because you do that after and that's on the work list, just like ours,
yes,
right? Okay.
yeah. These are shared on the work list, but this just puts them all in one place.
Yeah.
So you would do your COVID vaccine screening. So basically, it's asking if they've had one, are they interested, and then if
Okay.
they have any contraindications or precautions.
So if you hit yes, does it negate all the rest of it?
Mhm.
Good.
Right now, but that's going to be changing because now we're doing boosters.
Ah,
But anyway, if they're interested and they have a severe reaction, we're not going to give it. We're going to say,
sure.
talk to your PCP. If they have not a severe reaction, but some other reaction, or they're immunocompromised, it will say, yes, they have a precaution, and then you need to talk to the provider before you give it.
Okay.
And once you get into PCS, you're going to be talking to whoever the admitting physician is, or, probably still the surgeon, right?
Mhm. For most of our cases, yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to ask them if they should have it or not. And then you would say it's indicated, and you would pick whichever one they want. And then that's going to trigger an order for you to place an order. And then it's going to go to pharmacy.
And then it'll come up on your mark.
Mhm. And this is confusing because it's probably the first and second. So we need to actually clarify that probably. Then you'd wait for that to come up. You would, they'll bring all the paperwork, the card, everything, and then you'll give it and do your discharge, and then you'll document your discharge assessment.
Okay.
I don't have a discharge order in here, so it's not going to let me print the packet, but that's
Sorry.
the same as normal. That's okay. I'm sure it works the same as what they're
As
used to.
packets, yeah.
Mhm.
So when
Mhm.
when you click these,
It takes you right to the intervention.
Yeah, you just use the document button here. And it's going to put them somewhere. It's not gonna let me because I already have that one open. Yeah. And then this discharge assessment, it's pretty basic. Just says when you gave them instructions, prescriptions, how they got home, services, if they're awake.
That's just like.
Yeah,
I sent them home to
pretty-
sleep.
pretty
That's what I
similar.
do.
right?
I'm like, you know what? You're nice and comfy. You need to go.
Go
Yeah.
home. So it's pretty much the same, just a few extra little interventions.
Well, a lot of it is the legal stuff that we have to make sure are there, I think, more than anything. 'Cause
Right.
As long as we can get into PCS, we should be able to
Mhm.
document what we need to.
Right.
We need to know what legally has to be.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I tried to do with this one here. You know, 24 hours, that's regulatory. As needed,
Those
that's
can be-
because we want it to be accurate. Like, that's the rationale for why you're doing
I said now. I have to document every hour
it. Right?
that you paid.
Okay. Yep.
All right, that's interesting.
And then, so when the patient's ready to leave this location, it would just be like you normally do, except that there's not another transfer order. Because the level of care is not changing, unless for some reason their status changed and they're gonna be going to step down.
Sure.
But no transfer orders at that point.
Okay.
You just need to put in your nurse to reg communication and your SBAR. And then
Okay.
registration will roll them to the med-surg bed or wherever they're going.
Okay, remind me, because this has
Mhm.
been a minute. We need to put a nurse to reg in from phase 2
Yes,
to serve.
yes,
40.
yes. So you'll.
But
end
that's
up
all we have to do
doing
is
two.
put the order in and then they fix it.
And
Their
then we
magic.
go from surfboarding to,
Yep.
We nurse to reg from surfboarding to the floor.
As soon as
Okay.
they do that, they will disappear off of that list and they will show up on the med-surg list or wherever they're going.
So Stacy, did you put in the nurse to reg communication order and that's where you picked a room?
Yes, did you not see it? Well, I guess you
It
wouldn't.
doesn't go over on the reg
Because
phase
side.
two
It should
didn't.
already be picked. If you
Well,
already
not
s-
necessarily because it's just a printout for them, I guess. So you probably won't see that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They would look at their paper and then they would
They
pick
would
that
look
room.
up, okay,
Mhm.
because I was like, how would they know?
Yeah, no, it
Okay,
doesn't transmit to registration because it's a field, not a query.
Okay,
So.
And are you talking about the one from phase 2 to the surfboarding room?
Mhm.
yeah. Because I just played registration and I had to pick my room and then I didn't ask her what room she put, but that wouldn't happen in real life because they'll have a printout. So that was my question.
Yes.
Wow.
Then they would call.
You call and say, hey, SBAR's ready.
Hey, I'm totally confused. Can you please help me? No, just kidding.
Well, and that's the other
No,
thing
it's
that
fine.
we've been telling everyone is that use your resources, you know, if somebody, like one of the house soups has worked in PCS, ask them a question. You can call the floor, ask one of the charge nurses. So just.
Oh, yeah,
use
the
your
night I
resources.
kept that patient all night, I'm like, Justin, I don't have these meds. Can you find them for me? He's like, well, where do you want me to go find them? I don't care where you find them. I just need them.
Right. So they did say that the procedure center, Pyxis would be the best place to look because it's gonna have more of your oral meds. But then if you can't find somebody or something to ask.
It was
how
something
soon-
dumb like throat spray.
Right.
I'm like,
procedure center or pre-op? Probably
They said
that
procedure
pre-op.
center.
like, if you needed like PO Zofran,
Mhm.
it's in PCS or in PC.
Yeah.
You know, things like that, that we aren't
Right.
necessarily gonna give IV all day.
Yeah, but if you can't find it, then call house soup and have them
They
look.
usually can round it up somewhere.
So how many patients are they gonna have us taking care of and still being on call to do surgical patients?
That would probably be a question for Kristen, but the policy that Tammy wrote is that you guys could board up to 3 patients before they would have somebody from the units come down to take care of those patients down there. But it also depends on if they even have enough staff.
Or if we have enough stuff.
Exactly.
Well, I was gonna say, because
So So it's all very fluid right now because it depends on which department actually has staff, which department has beds. And then they did talk about if there's like one patient in ED and one patient in SIR that need boarded, they might put those together and have one nurse take care of them.
And then if we're boarding patients, we will be canceling elective cases and only doing outpatient and emergent cases until they're cleared. She doesn't believe me.
From a legal standpoint, this is,
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
no, it's gonna get us hung.
We're not the only ones doing it.
Right, and that's why we're doing
The
this,
whole
so that
country is
we
doing it.
have a process, so that we have safety measures in place.
Then how about we get a resource team so that they can do the boarding of patients and we can still do on-call nursing for recovery? Because what is it, the 80, whatever standards for the standards for 2 nursing with recovery coming out as,
Yeah.
you know, phase 1, 2 nurses have to be there. But yet we're gonna have boarded patients in there too.
Well, you have to use your resources like house soup.
Yeah, so that's a lot of different stuff to work with, but we definitely wanted to have a process and have